I'm in a band with, my very first band before the Lords of London was with the drummer Pat Little, who worked with Rick James and Van Morrison. He was a touring drummer. He was in the band Heaven and Earth with Rick James. He's my oldest musician friend, I can honestly say. So what we did was we got the Melody Maker magazine and we saw the name The Undertakers. And we said, we're going to call our band that. Now, this is before the Lords of London. So I was only 13. And we had like the TK tight slacks, the Beatle boots, bangs and everything, and mauve tab shirts, real hip. And we were doing all the Rolling Stones songs. The first album, like, and Yardbirds stuff.
Jimmy you have the nerve to talk about John Lennon. I mean, you're 13 going on 40 here. Come on.
And so I went to rehearsal one day and practice, and Pat's not there. Pat Little's not there, And I said, where's Pat? And they said, oh, he moved to the Village. And I said, well, what's that? Yorkville, right? So my mom, she wouldn't let me go. I was too young. The Undertakers were done. That was it. Gone. He was just gone. So in grade 7, here I am in grade 7, and I meet Danny Taylor and Sebastian, and we start jamming together, and we formed the Lords of London. And Pat Little was living in Yorkville, and he was playing in Luke and the Apostles, and then David Clayton Thomas took him to New York. David Clayton Thomas joined Blood, Sweat and Tears, and Pat went on tour with Van Morrison as his drummer. Last year, I was playing a little bar, and this guy came walking up to me and said, Hughie, it's Pat Little. I said, oh my God, I hadn't seen him since like he was playing with Flood for a while in the 70s, early 70s. And so 30, almost 40 years. I hadn't seen him in like, I said, holy smokes. So now me, my brother Gordon, and Pat Little, we have a band called the Leggat Brothers. And we do all the songs I love. Big Walter Horton and Jimmy Reed, and I do Slim Harpo's King Bee, and there's Pat Little in the middle in the picture here. That's his drum. Everything's like psychedelic. That's like right back in Rockpaw, and that shows all the different albums that Chuck Berry record was on. And
jeez, I only have 4 of the 8 here.
So that's what I'm doing now. The Leggat Brothers, and along with Flint Coldwater, it's always be in my heart, and the Nucleus. The Nucleus plays once every few years. Mike Camino plays the bass guitar now. I don't play the bass anymore. I can't remember all the parts. It's too complicated. The Nucleus is a nightmare. It's 5 bars of this and 6/8 time, and then 2 minutes of this, and then another 5 minutes of that, and it's just, I can't remember it all. So I said, no, I'll just sing. So I just sing.
You're becoming really lazy.
Yeah. I mean, so this band here, the Leggat Brothers, I enjoy playing the bass in this. This is real roots stuff, and I love playing the bass.
I love the hat. Cool. I've got one like that.
Yeah,
you saw some of those stage clothes. Eh?
Yeah, and I dress. I've always dressed the same way, on stage or off. That's the way I am. It's the same way. Hendrix's jacket, with the eyeballs on it, all that psychedelic stuff. That all came out of a clothes store. It was all custom-made stuff called Granny Takes a Trip in England. And all those guys that Cream and that, they're all getting their clothes there. The Yardbirds, everybody. So in Toronto, a store opened up called The Garb. And it was in the Village in Yorkville. And so I was in the band then, and so I started buying the clothes. So it was fantastic. And then Long John's opened up on Yonge Street, right across from the gasworks. And you could buy velvet suits and satin suits, and it was like, man, this is so cool. Right from England. The clothes were right from London, from Carnaby Street. And, just some guy decided to start a business, and it was going great, and then, boom, it was gone.
Unfortunately, I could only window shop there.
I know. And so, I don't know how I got the money together, but that's why I could get those clothes, was because I didn't drive at that point. But then everyone else wanted to drink, and so they needed a DD, a designated driver. And because I didn't drink, they forced me to get my driver's license. So as soon as I got my driver's license, I said, look, I kind of like these cars, these Corvettes, So my friend took me, and my first car I ever had, can you imagine this? I was 20, and it was a 65 Stingray convertible. That's what I had, my very first car. And my dad had to co-sign for me, and he said, son, don't you think you should get a Volkswagen? I said, oh, no, Dad, I got a Corvette. He says, Are you sure, son? I said, oh, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. And there it was, a white convertible, you know? Oh, man. 65 Stingray. Can you imagine that? That was beautiful.
Oh, they're nice cars.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and I had 3 vintage Corvettes in my life. And I get, you know how they say things come in threes? Maybe that's all I'll ever have. But they were great. The ones I had were great.
The wheel of fortune spins
It's a fierce business. It's not for the faint of heart. It's only for the courageous ones, the music business, because in order to achieve those moments, you have to sacrifice your whole life to do it. You have to sacrifice your future, everything that society teaches us. Get a trade, get married, have children, buy a house. Yeah. You have to defy all of that. You have to throw that to the side, and you have to risk your whole life. You have to put your blood on the page.
And if you don't, it's not going to work. No. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And out of it's only from the agony comes the ecstasy. It's true. It takes everything you have. It takes your whole life for a few moments.
Sir Hughie Leggat, thank you, sir. Esquire. Everybody has to have a title.
Thank you. And that's that.
We find out after the interview that Hugh did a TV show. So
well, Lords London did the Upbeat TV show, which was like Dick Clark's in America, out of Cleveland, which is the rock and roll city of the U.S., the world, period. It was called the Upbeat TV show, and the Lords were on there. But at the same time, Booker T and the MGs were on the show. And the drummer, Al Jackson, who was tragically, murdered, I believe. He came over and he talked to us. We were only teenagers, 16, man. He came over and was giving us guidance, talking to us. And Duck Dunn, the bass player, come over and was rapping us. But Steve Cropper, he had his shades on, He didn't talk. He was very reclusive. And
what was it like doing a movie?
What was it like doing that movie? Yeah. That was a documentary movie, so it was live. And they were on the trolleys on the stage, rolling back and forth. And they caught all the dialogue and everything. And it was like, you sort of forget that you're being filmed. So you sort of forget. But they're there watching you. They're listening. When John Lennon walked in, I had Little Richard standing right next to me. And he yelled, Johnny Lennon, I know you love me. You sing my song, woo, 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 like this, right in my ear. And I'm going to burst my eardrum. It's so loud. His head is about this big, Little Richard. His head, and he had a pompadour, a great big pompadour like this, with the black hosiery on, to hold it in place. Uh-huh. And he had his eye makeup on and everything. And he's a real star, this guy. But could he sing? I never heard anybody sing like Little Richard, man. He was just shrieking, Johnny Lennon, you love me. I'm the king of rock and roll. And he was all upset, was because they said that John Lennon was going to close. And Little Richard said, I'm the king of rock and roll. Johnny Lennon has to go on before me. And so John Lennon said, it's okay, it's all right. Boom. It's okay, Little Richard. We'll go on before you. So John Lennon went on before Little Richard. And then the doors closed. The doors closed. Because there was no banter between those two, between Little Richard and the Doors. It just wasn't going to happen, okay?
I found out this little true story you might be interested in.
But John Lennon loved Little Richard. He loved his music, and it's true.
That's good.
Yeah.
I found out this little story. Richard told me this, and Richard had this amazing record collection from the late 40s, early 50s.
He went down to Buffalo and bought them all those records, yeah.
Yeah, him and Zach and a bunch of them.
In the 50s, late 50s, when they were kids.
He had one from 1954 called Escarita.
Oh.
And Escarita did that little yodel in 1954. Little Richard got it from Escarita in 1956, and Paul McCartney got it from...
Yeah, I thought...
But it was Escarita, this obscure Spanish artist, Escarita, that did it first. And Richard had that album. He proved it to me. He was there. Here, Mark, here's the date. Look at the dates. Look at the dates.
I know. Little Rich, though, he was doing Ruth Brown, like, how those little tails? Lucy, in the end, that's all like Ruth Brown, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
So I mean, he knew what he was doing. Like, and let's figure it out. When Little Richard got, when he was cutting his records, and they took that voice and that sound, and they got the songs, and they knew what they're doing. They made hits, man.